whoever joins us. And I like the small gatherings as well because it just makes it easier for all of us to be able to add and share our points. So give it a moment here. Joins us, and I like the small gatherings as well because for all of us to be able to add. I'm putting the link right now on YouTube. Well, maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, only it's just my dad. My mom didn't add.
Give me a second here. Let's see what I can do. Okay, there it is. There's the Zoom meeting. There's the link. I'm going to put this on. So if anybody wants to jump in, they can go straight through. There we go. Hopefully that works. Okay, well, I will close out of that. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. So I went ahead, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, if you missed the link, I did put it in the chat room. I have no idea what's going on in the chat room. I can't see it from my end, but for those of you who are there, thank you for participating in the chat room. Just remember to be kind to one another in your comments as we honor and support each other in our journeys. As we're walking this out together, it may look different for each one of us as we are finding our way through spiritual gravity, but we are on our way. We are definitely doing it. So anyway, if you do have a copy of the book and you have read it or are reading it, I invite you to jump into the Zoom meeting. We are going to be starting on page 13 today. We haven't really gotten far because there's been great conversation. There's been wonderful conversation that we've had regarding this book. And we just haven't gotten that far because we've had a lot to digest in just the hour and a half to 2 hours that we decided to discuss this book, and really what that is pertaining to our spiritual journey and what that's going to look like as we continue to change, emptying out our vessel and creating a new reality for us, understanding how the matrix works, understanding how our mind and how we create with the heart-brain coherence. It's really fascinating. In this first chapter, I knew we were going to slow down in this first chapter because of all the quantum physics side of it, quantum U. And for those of you who are joining us, if you have just a like LGK8, or if you could change your name, I'm pretty sure that LGK51 is Lemoyne. But for you who have just joined in, I would love to know who you are. The Zoom meeting is not for a place for anonymity. If you don't want to turn on your camera, that's fine. And I see that we have David that's joined us today. Thank you for letting me know who you are. And LGK8, if you could do the same thing, let me know what your name is. If you want to stay anonymous, we've got YouTube going on right now. So this is just like an intimate little setting for those of us who want to talk and be able to add what we have gathered from this. So we're going to look at page 13 here. And I know that my camera isn't going to probably do a very good job of showing this, but for some of you who do not have the book, this page is so fascinating in the schematics of what it's showing for the collapsing the wave function. And I'm going to read to you guys a little bit on here, and then we can talk about this particular page. And then please feel free, if you have something to say, I want you, while you're here on the Zoom meeting, I want you to put your input. This isn't just me sharing my voice and my thoughts here. I really want to interact with you guys because we all see from different perspectives. But this figure that they're talking about, I'll read to you what the description is. The electron exists as a wave of probability in one moment, and then in the next moment appears as a solid particle, then disappears into nothing, and then reappears at another location. Now, I don't know about you, but when I saw that example and they were showing that of what it really looks like based upon what we were taught in school and through K through 12, not so much for the college end of it, it took me a bit to be able to process what I was seeing here. And, because I know very little about the quantum mechanics side of it. I know that Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but to see that there's something specifically about what the quantum side of the atom really does, it helps explain a lot about the matrix system that we're in and our creating ability. Did you guys have any comments on that? Anything that you thought, particularly when you saw that? Joe, did you have thoughts on that? I know, no, you're not afraid to talk, my friend. So I'm gonna be, if people are gonna be silent, I'm gonna be picking on you.
That's fine. Well, can you repeat that? Because I lost track of the last thing you just said, because my phone was telling me I wasn't in the meeting. I was like, but I hear you. So what did you just say?
Well, I was just saying that that whole picture on 13, where it talks about the action of what the quantum atom really does. I mean, did that kind of blow you away, or do you have more information about the quantum stuff than I did? Because when I saw that, I was like, holy cow. And it made me think of the experiments they did on monatomic gold, of how at a certain temperature it literally disappeared and then it reappeared. I'm like, okay. Okay.
Well, I think it just proves that, I mean, this chapter was, I mean, this is the first chapter? Yeah. Is it? No.
Yeah, no, this is the first chapter. Like I said, we haven't gotten very far because this quantum side has been so chock full of information.
Right. And so when, like for me, like Ursula and I have had so many discussions with this, and this picture pops into my head when we're talking like the infinite possibilities of the quantum. And it's just like how matter is really nothing.
Right.
It's just a parable for us to experience, and just to reestablish what we already know. And so like when I'm thinking about this electron, I'm like, well, you and I talked about this once before. Actually, I thought about this as how we zoom in or just appear in other people's lives during that frame of their movie, and then disappear again and to go live our movie, and serving each other, and however you want to put it. But that's what that made me think of. I'm like, oh, I'm just an electron, and I just appear in someone else's atom and change the consistency of it, and then just like, okay, I'm gone. See you later.
Because we're drawing each other in, right? Like for whatever
that's a good
reason
point.
Of our experience of what we need in the moment, we're drawing each other into our movie.
Right.
For
it's just energetic.
Yeah, because it's the energy, right? If matter, if it's like, what is it, like 99.999% energy, and then the rest of it is physical matter, then we know it's energy that is drawing us into each other's fields for a reason. Like it's the reason why I have people joining here, even though I don't know who LGK8 is. And if you could change your name, or at least type it in the chat room so that I can change it, I'd be happy to. Oh, it's Regina. She already did. I love you, my friend. Sorry. Oh, my friend Regina, she's probably cracking up right now, so I'm going to rename her and put it in as Regina so I don't have to keep asking. I'm glad that she got pulled into my field and I got pulled into hers. So anyway.
Yeah.
So when we flip to the next page, I made some notes on the next page here, because some of this stuff is really worth talking about, I think, talking about the observer effect. And quantum physics discovered that the person observing or measuring the tiny particles that make up atoms affects the behavior of energy and matter. That was a Selah moment for me.
Well, and that's the double slit experiment, and Schrodinger's cat, and this is all the beginning of this.
Right.
And I don't know if you've heard like the double slit experiment, but the double observation of the same experiment.
No,
so instead of one
please.
person observing it and then being objective or subjective to the observance of the photons, two people did it with two different results, each of them having different results based on their observance.
That's so two entirely different outcomes. I mean, if that doesn't mess with your mind.
Right. It's the same photons.
Right.
How?
Right. In other words, a particle cannot manifest in reality, that is, in ordinary space-time as we know it, until we observe it. So how much, again, of what we have going on in our outward reality is because of what the inward is telling us in the way we decode it, right?
Right.
We're decoding it. Okay, so we're all in our own little simulation here.
Yeah. And it's just, you know what messes with my mind is I'm, you know, let's say I'm talking with Ursula or the kids or something like that. Maybe I get triggered, or maybe I'm happy emotionally or something like that. And I view them as serving me, and I'm observing my own personal reality. But they are also have a personal reality that they're observing. I have no idea what they see, think, or feel unless we communicate.
Right.
And then it's a very muddled line of like, what's for me, what's for you, how am I? It's just that when I go down these rabbit holes in my head, I'm like, oh, well,
this is,
I'm just
you just actually brought in a point from the book, from A Course in Miracles, that said that the only reason why we have the physical body is so that we can communicate.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
So, like you just said it, you just stated it based on what your observation is about their reality, and that the only way we know is by communicating with one another. Hence why communication is such an important part of our experience here.
Right.
So here we go. Okay, so here's another part of this. We know that the moment the observer looks for an electron, there's a specific point in time that in time and space when all probabilities of the electron collapse into a physical event.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, a physical event. And that because the subjective mind produces measurable changes on the objective physical world. So I'm already dot connecting here about how important it is of what we got going on the inside. So, you know, if you want peace in your world, then you need to create peace within you so it can manifest out here, because you're observing, right? It's from here, you're creating it in your field dependent on what's going on the inside. That's a huge concept.
The recipe is very simple. It's like thought and emotion together equal creation. So be responsible with it.
Exactly.
Don't complain you oversalted your spaghetti sauce. You put the salt in.
Yeah. You know, from now on we might just use that, oh, it's your spaghetti sauce.
Yeah, there you go.
My dad always said it's your, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's really, for us to be responsible creators, we need to know how it works.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know what you just said. We need to know that intimately if we're going to affect and make it different for all of us.
Yeah.
Because we are all affected in the quantum field. So this isn't about you just creating your reality. It's the overlapping of all of us.
Mm-hmm. And that's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, it is.
That's daunting. That just makes me want to like crumble sometimes and be like, but I just want to feel like being a jerk right now, or whatever, like leave me alone or something like that. But I can't, because I'm putting it out there and now people got to deal with my stuff.
I know. And then it ripples out, so if you're being a jerk and you have that feeling and you're projecting it out, all of a sudden somebody else that's connected in your quantum field is going, God, why do I feel like such a jerk right now?
Right.
Like,
we have 2 young kids, and Julian and Lucas, and when I'm feeling that anxiety or something like that, maybe it's mine, maybe it's not, doesn't matter. I'm letting it attach to me, and immediately it won't be the same thing, but they start running in that energy, and they don't do it like this forlorn. Let's just say that I'm depressed. They're not forlorn. They go like almost 180 degrees from that energy and just start being like just rebellious about everything.
Uh-huh.
And then now I'm starting to be like, and then for them to catch myself, I'm like, hey, you're doing this, you're doing that. Wait a minute, that is me. I did this. It's very difficult.
Oh yeah, most definitely. At the subatomic level, energy responds to your mindful attention and it becomes matter. How would your life change if you learned to direct the observer effect and to collapse infinite waves of probability into the reality that you choose? This is
Mm-hmm.
where we no longer have to play the victim.
Absolutely.
And
Ugh.
that's a huge mindset. You know, that I read those words and I highlighted them and then I had to sit on them for a minute to
Right.
go,
And I
wow.
think this is where like synchronicity really comes in, is that
Yeah.
the idea of synchronicity is just like a little Easter egg for us to attach to, so we can be like, oh, wait, that's really fun. That's really cool. I said I wanted this. And now as we grow and we mature, it's like, oh, wait, I actually do this. And now I have to, now I got to think about you too, not just about what a new pair of shoes I want or something like that, you know? It's
Well, that,
something.
you know what? That's the beginning of having the consciousness expand beyond the self.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Which is
that's
huge.
like a step towards the Christ anointing, the Mashiach is going beyond just that self ego and what our little world looks like to then encompassing all things in the process of it. And that's another shift as well. Because when you
Yeah.
start sensing that, that's when that sense of responsibility starts staring at you right in the face, knowing
Mm.
that everything that we do, that we are all connected, and everything that I think that I'm doing individually is actually affecting everyone else as we're connected quantumly.
And isn't that the covenant? You know, the old
Yes.
covenant, the first covenant.
Yes.
Bereshit. Yeah.
Bereshit, the covenant of
Yeah.
one fire. That's why I recently started a playlist calling The Heart of One Fire. Because as we're igniting that within us collectively, you know, flame, it's interesting how it goes and it consumes everything. And it's meant to consume everything. And so it's really the consuming of the self nature to get to selflessness,
Mm.
to get less of self, so that then we join as one burning heart instead of our little micro worlds that are all separated. We begin to join. And so yes, absolutely, the first covenant, then the beginning, choose wisely, find the
Mm-hmm.
covenant of fire and become one with it on the inside right here, a burning heart. So yeah.
Carrie,
Yes, please,
it's
Kathleen.
me, Kathleen. Um, I was thinking about something that I experienced, and it's before I met you guys, and I don't know. It was like when COVID first started, and I was staying at home, and I was in my backyard all the time, and so all my activities were gone, and not as much communication with people. But I don't know. Something happened to me that I used to say was magical, and then it doesn't matter what word I said, but I'll tell you that I started raising, butterflies, and a little bit before that. But I was getting into nature so much, and I could never prove this to anybody, and I don't need to prove it. But there was a cat that came around that adopted me, and I played with dragonflies, and two dragonflies that came and they never left. They kept coming and I could pet them. I was just flipping out. I thought, wow. And I was watering one day, and my cat, the new cat, was playing in the water, and cats don't like water all the time. And as I was watering the plants, I could see this rainbow, how it happens in the water. Carrie, I'm telling you guys the truth. I got absolved into that somehow. I didn't make it happen. I never had this before. I knew then that everything was one. I I wasn't even existing, and I don't know how long that was. Probably less than a minute. But I was absorbed into the water, and I thought later, maybe because I'm made of water, I just I don't know if this makes sense, but
Oh yeah, it does.
I became
Joe's
one
sitting,
with
listen,
something.
Joe's smiling because he's getting it. He knows exactly what you're
Oh,
saying.
okay,
So
all right.
yeah, you're not being crazy.
Lemoyne.
It's
Join the meeting.
it's just it's what happens in that moment that creators like. Now is when Kathleen needs to really comprehend this. She needs to have an experience here. And it's life changing. I mean, it's
I knew
absolutely life
it.
changing.
I said that. I said, gosh, I'm never going to be the same after that. But then, you know, it wasn't too long before I was my ornery self in ways, but still, I'll never forget that there was a lesson in that. So thank you.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's good. I know that my friend Linda says that's what happens when we allow our human to get back in the way. So, you know, it's easy to do. It's very easy to do. But that's, again, I think why this book is coming into our field now. I mean, I know this has been out for a while, and I know there's many people that have already read this, but, you know, the timing for the nature of it coming in now, for me, was exactly when I needed to see it. Exactly. And that's why I wanted to share it. So I love the stories that are connected to it, because we're creating our reality. So for whatever was in that moment for you, you actually created it to manifest. And that's where, like Joe would say, synchronicity, that something that needed to happen in that moment, you actually created it to manifest in that moment for you to be one with it.
Wow.
I love it. All right. Let us go to, I don't want to get too hooked in the minutia, because there's something I really want to get to today. I'm going to skip a couple pages. There's a couple points that I want to go into on the page 14 and 15 before. When it talks about possible realities. So they are really, Mishka. Hi, girl. Thanks for coming in. My dog. Whoa.
Hey, come here.
Jeez. She scares me when she barks because she's so loud. Big eyes. All right. So they exist as pure potential, and they in their wave state while they are not being deserved or observed. So pure potential. Okay. So again, my whole purpose of doing this book is also connecting it to the sacred languages. So when I'm sharing with you guys the root of a word, the root word, I mean, I know you guys have heard me say this, the root of a Hebrew or Aramaic word is nothing but pure potential. Joe, I'm going to mute you just because your kids are in the background. I love them, but
I'll mute.
okay. So the root is pure potential, and I call it like a static neutral position. It's like a lump of clay that is just waiting to take shape and form. So when I read this, I was like, oh, okay, I get it now, because we both, my husband and I, have both seen that. It's just like waiting for it to manifest. Here is pure potential, and what are we going to do with it? So that makes sense that it's in a wave state that it's not being observed yet, because it hasn't done anything. It doesn't do anything until we observe it, until we're actually engaged in it. So think about it like words on a page in the Hebrew and Aramaic text. They are just there as pure potential until you observe it. And then when you observe it, it becomes manifest in you. You wonder why we become the Word made flesh. Because those letters have a frequency, and they're waiting for us to collaborate by observing them. Eureka! It's like, yeah, I can see why it's the language of personal ascension and how we can work collectively with it, because we're partnering with it. And then it's the potential that then becomes active within us. That's so amazing. So the potential is that they are everything and nothing until they are observed. They exist everywhere and nowhere until they are observed. Thus, everything in our physical reality exists as pure potential. So the languages are like that. They exist. They're still there. They're there, and then they're not there, depending on the observer in the moment. Just waiting for us to happen upon them, so that they can manifest in our reality. So when we connect it at the emotional level, imagine the beauty that we're creating when we're looking at it. Okay, moving into 15. If you guys have anything that you want to add, please do.
I want to, when you said lump of clay, this has just been, it's something in our house that's been, really on, is the what I'm getting a lot from discussing with other people is this block of right and wrong. Everything can't just be energy. It has to be right or wrong. There must be a polemic description upon it. And we were talking about a lump of clay and how the observance, and this kind of ties in what you're saying, is the observance of what you're doing. And really, if you look at yourself as a spark of the creator's observing you as the artist and working with the clay. And he provided the clay, he provided the art studio, he provided the body for you to be the artist. And there's no way that he's going to rock around and say, oh, look, you did a demonic sculpture and you did an angelic sculpture. But those are just really good sculptures, guys. I really appreciate, and I'm observing you and feeling you and how you guys are expressing yourselves uniquely as your personality in this paradigm. And I just think that that's pure potentiality. It's like there's no judgment based on how you fill that word up, how you do that. It's just art, Exactly. It's just art.
Exactly. What do they say? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm. And the beholder that I'm talking about is the creator. So that there's no judgment. Absolutely none. You wouldn't judge, be like, well, we do judge ourselves, but it's not like.
Well, and we judge, right? And so that's what we're manifesting outwards. We're manifesting that polarity in our reality because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So if any of us are tired of duality, well, then that's why we need to find the oneness unity, really, truthfully embody it, like what Kathleen so beautifully expressed in that one moment that she had, so that can be fully where we're at. Like, recapture that moment, go within, find that spot so we can manifest it in pure intention. I love that. So beautiful. So going on to the next page, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here because I really want to get to the experiment that they did. It was so incredible. And that's like 2 pages away because I really want this to sink in with you guys, what this means. So I've been waiting for like 2 weeks to get here. But on the top of page 15, if subatomic particles can exist in an infinite number of possible places simultaneously, we are potentially capable of collapsing into existence an infinite number of possible realities. Again, responsibility, right? Joe is like, this is a huge responsibility here. In other words, if you can imagine a future event in your life based on any one of your personal desires, that reality already exists as a probability in the quantum field, waiting to be observed by you. If your mind can influence the appearance of electron, then theoretically it can influence the appearance of any possibility. So if you don't like what you're seeing and you're experiencing it, you can change it. Again, getting rid of the whole victim mindset of being responsible for creating that which you are experiencing as the observer. Like, you create it and observe it. So then, Joe, going back to what you were saying about the art and the masterpieces that Father creates, like, here's all of these probabilities, all of these possibilities, and then we manifest as that. So that source creator can observe creation by an infinite number of possibilities by sending fragments of himself that he then can observe. And as we're coming into oneness unity, that is where we're coming to the place of where we're the observer, where nobody's observing us. We're the observer. Like, makes you sit on that for a little bit to go, oh, wow, this is what
it's like when you
supreme being.
Yeah. And it's like when you put a mirror behind you while you're looking into a mirror, and it just creates more infinite,
Yeah.
And you're just like, I don't know which way to look at. Well, get in the middle and then you'll be able to see it all.
Exactly. I love that. Well, and then just to let you know, that's kind of like where Ken has talked about his compass teaching, like right in the center of the compass, so you can see all those degrees. So yes, connecting everything to that is like, oh, it's right here with the quantum physics and everything. What is this looking like for our lives? Oh, and I do like it. I forgot. He does say like clay. That's funny. Page 15, like clay, the energy of infinite possibilities is shaped by consciousness, your mind. I didn't even know that he had that in there. I read this chapter like quite a few weeks ago, and I forgot that he put that in there. So when we go into, I'm going to flip over. Let's move to page 16 and 17, because I've got a whole lot of markings on here, but I really don't want to read every page to you guys. I just want to encourage you, like Joe was saying earlier, I think before we started recording, he started reading this and he's having a hard time putting the book down. So any of you that have experienced yourself, I know that there are others that I've spoken to that have said the same thing, that the way, especially Joe writes, I don't want to read it for you. I want you to read it. And if it's calling to you, if it's something that needs to be brought into your sphere, because it's making a huge difference in mine. He did say something down on page 16. I did write this down because I really felt like it was connected to the letter Tav. And in the third paragraph on the page, you, like all of us, broadcast a distinct energy pattern or signature. Part of the definition of the letter Tav is fingerprint, signature, completion, covenant. So connecting to the Tav at the end of the journey is like the manifestation of the completeness of where you are in the moment with your frequency is being broadcast as an individuality fingerprint signature of you as a fractal of source. So when I read that, I was really excited because I could see it through the letters. I'm like, wow, that's like a definition of the Tav right here, because we do carry our own energy patterns. You are consciousness using a body and a brain to express different levels of mind. I thought that was beautiful. Like, wow, what a wonder of just being in creation and what we get to experience and honoring one another through this journey. Then we get into the quantum non-local connection. The quantum non-local connection. Once two particles can be initially linked in some way, they will always be bonded together beyond space and time. That is what we are doing when we gather, because we just linked. So think about that, about bringing in, it's like, Joe, what you were talking about before about our spaces, right? We create, and your kids are in yours and yours in them, and how we communicate. We are quantumly entangled with one another in a beautiful way that connects us beyond space and time. That does my heart good when I read things like that, because my heart is unifying and bringing into oneness unity all of us. That's really like my passion of what I feel. And like when Kathleen shared her moment, it's like when you know that you're one with everything and you feel it, it really is like this magnetism or this draw, this spiritual energy that is pulling you towards that, because you taste it, you touch it, you see it, you sense it, you feel it. And that's why it makes it so profound. It goes beyond the five senses. It's this feeling that you get that you want more of it, because you know that's truth. You know that's truth. You guys have
And you know what,
anything?
Carrie?
Yes.
I for myself, I came to the conclusion after that, because I kept reliving it in my head and thought, how did this happen? But I had a thought that kept coming to me that I thought how happy I felt, like a little kid, with the awe and wonder of a child. But I came to the conclusion for myself that it actually wasn't really just happiness, it was joy. And I don't know that I've experienced real joy, all throughout my life, things that made me happy externally, external things. But that joy is something so deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. And I know that is something that we all want to be able to have. You can't manufacture it. It's there, and when you experience it, it does call you back there, because that is truth. And being able to create that space for ourselves every day by manifesting it into our reality. Wow. I love that Dr. Joe put down here on the bottom that he said, this means that since we two are made up of particles, we are all implicitly connected beyond space and time. What we do unto others, we do unto ourselves. So this is Mother's golden rule. And so seeing that in the language of why mother has to start with that external orientation is because we don't realize when we're young how we are affecting one another quantumly. So she has to orient us so that we're not hurting ourselves by hurting somebody else, because we are all affected, so that we make the right choices, you know. So if I'm abusing drugs, I'm hurting other people, you know. And we don't think past that until you recognize the quantum field and how it works. Again, it's all about responsibility and sovereignty, because we're all being raised up to be leaders over our body, which then in turn affects us. So think about the implication of this. If you can wrap your mind around this concept, then you'd have to agree that the you that exists in a probable future is already connected to the you in this now, in the dimension beyond this time and space. So quantumly, everything from past, present, future, it's all right here in the now. And, you know, I'm glad that we have quantum science to be able to, quantum physics to be able to explain this, because I remember hearing people in the past that would talk about this, about the now moment, and, you know, everything's happening simultaneously. And it never really made sense to me until they began proving it. And then experiments like they did with the watching what happens with the quantum particle, and just different things in my life that I experienced, is like, okay, I think I'm finally connecting to this and what that means for the probabilities of we can create in our now moment. So now I want to get to the page where we're probably going to spend a little bit of time on, or I did share this in a video a long time ago regarding.
Carrie, do you mind if I
No, please
connect with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I read this, and I've done this before, but it really was real this time. You know, my future self is connected to the present self, and I thought of one of the most traumatic points of this life. And I was like, oh my God. So I closed my eyes and I went back to my past self as a child in this incarnation, and gave myself a hug and said, it's going to be all right, man. Like, just breathe. I know it's tough. You're really young. You don't get it yet. You know, just went through it and just gave myself a hug, just healing myself in the past. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what my future self is doing for me now.
Right now. Exactly. I'm so glad that you said that. So that's actually a really good segue into what I finally wanted to get to us, for us to really let this sink in, to really let this sink in. So when we get to page 17, there's a subtitle. It says, Weird Science, Can We Affect the Past? So thank you for setting that up, Joe, because that is totally, this is a mind-boggling portion of this book. So I'm going to actually read a couple pages, okay? Because I think it's important that if people are listening on YouTube and they don't have the book, I really want them to hear this. And then after I do this, I'm going to actually share something, an email that came into me, and then we can chat some more, and we'll see if we go past this. But for today, I think this is something fantastic for us to really think about. So here we go. I'm going to read it, and we'll go from here. Since we're all interconnected across distance and time, does this suggest that our thoughts and feelings can influence events in our past as well as those we desire in our future? In July 2000, Israeli doctor Leonard Leibov, you would think that I would know how to pronounce this, Leibovici, conducted a double-blind, randomized controlled trial involving 3,393 hospital patients, divided into a control group and an intercession group. He set out to see whether prayer could have an effect on their condition. Prayer experiments are great examples of mind affecting matter at a distance, but stay here with me because everything is not always what it seems. Leibovici selected patients who had suffered sepsis, an infection, while hospitalized. He randomly designated half the patients to have prayers said for them, in 3 categories: how long fever lasted, length of hospital stay, how many died as a result of the infection. The prayed for benefited from an earlier decrease in fever and a shorter hospitalization time. The difference in the number among deaths among the prayed for and the not prayed for groups was not statistically significant, although better in the prayed for group. That's a powerful demonstration of the benefits of prayer and how we can send an intention out into the quantum field throughout our thoughts and feelings. However, now this is the key. There's one additional element to this story that you should know about. Did it strike you as slightly odd that in July of 2000, a hospital would have more than 3,000 cases of infection at once? When I was reading this, I didn't catch that. I just kind of blew by it. So was it a very poorly sterilized place, or was some kind of contagion running rampant? Actually, those who were praying were not praying for patients who were infected in 2000. Instead, unbeknownst to them, they were praying for lists of people who had been in the hospital from 1990 to 1996, 4 to 10 years prior to the experiment. Let that sink in. The prayed for patients actually got better during the 1990s from the experiment conducted years later. So let me say this another way. The patients who were prayed for in 2000 all showed measurable changes in health, but those changes took effect years before. That's jaw-dropping if you ask me. A statistical analysis of this experiment proved that these effects were far beyond coincidence. This demonstrates that our intentions, our thoughts and feelings, and our prayers not only affect our present or future, but they can actually affect our past as well. Now, this leads to the question: if you were to pray or focus on an intention for a better life of yourself, could it affect your past, present, and future? The quantum laws says that all potentials exist simultaneously. Our thinking and our feelings affect all aspects of life beyond both space and time. Anybody want to comment on that experiment?
I do.
Please.
I read this, and of course, I love to always read everything that sounds hopeful, and this just seems so fascinating, and I can definitely see it for the future. And some other time I'll talk about an experience I had with my future self that appeared to me. But right now I want to ask you to explain to me something I'm missing.
Okay.
Is it that they had all the statistics in front of them of groups? How did they do the control experiment where at the end they said, oh, all those people that were prayed for, did this and that, but I don't understand. How did they prove this? I don't get it. I don't know how they looked at figures when, how life is. They would go back in the hospital and they would look at all those figures of who did what and who died and all. How did they put this together?
Well,
Carrie?
the only way they could have done that is through the blind study portion of it. Is that the guy who was the scientist couldn't have seen what the results were.
Oh, he didn't know either.
So here's a blanket. He knew a portion, but the people that were doing the prayer, they thought they were praying for people in the year 2000. So there were names that were given. There was basic information, and they were praying for these people, but they didn't know all the specifics. They didn't know that they were praying for an event that happened between 1990 and 1996. They were praying in the now. Yes,
so
Lemoyne, if you want.
At the end of the whole experiment, the doctor was amazed because he thought, wow, these are the people who got better, the people at that time. But he thinks that it is in the present moment of praying that affected those results a long time ago.
Yeah, he was proving the actual, the mechanics of quantum physics and how the quantum realm really works in tangible scientific evidence and not just hypothetical.
Amazing.
I know. Lemoyne, did you want to say something too? I think I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Okay, I read that story quite a while back, and there's more to it.
Oh, I'm sure there is. Please tell us.
The more the people in prayer were given the list of names of the people back in the 90s. They were praying for those specific people who were hospitalized in the 90s. And in the research they were following, they saw that there was a sudden jump to good health and healing, and voila, there it was.
That's so amazing. So all they had was their names.
Yes.
And they
They
knew
had
that
their
they
names. They knew they were praying for people with sepsis,
yes.
but they had lists of these people that they were praying for the people on this list, which was the people in the 90s.
Exactly.
But also while they were praying, the people in the 2000s got healed also.
And that would make sense because it's
quantum matching, going through time. Yeah.
Exactly. How amazing.
You know, and I read this portion like 3 or 4 times because I'm getting tripped up on. So I get the whole idea that they were actually praying for someone in the 90s. Now, do they have a list of people? Let's just say Bob, Steve, and Karen in the 90s had sepsis, and they're praying for Bob, Steve, and Karen. Now, when they pray for Bob, Steve, and Karen, what resultant for the Bob, Steve, and Karen via the 90s are they looking at to say that Bob, Steve, and Karen got better because of prayer?
Well, because the people that were praying didn't know that they were praying for somebody in the 90s.
Well, that makes sense, but how do you know Bob, Steve, and Karen got better?
Because
without looking at a piece of
hospital records.
Hospital records.
Hospital records.
Okay, so now we're talking about, this is where my brain was looping, is we're talking mandala effect, that they changed the past by praying for them in the future. So they now? This is just me. Were they ever really? Can you ever really have the records of them being sick if they're better in the future? Does that make sense?
Let me think about that.
Well, they send you to the hospital on a certain time and date, and they will release you from the hospital on another certain time and date.
Okay.
So then there's records that they were there.
You can't walk out the hospital. They have a DOA time.
Okay. And it does specifically say in the book as well that they were tracking in 3 categories back in the 90s. So that when they were looking at these 2 control groups, they completely randomized it, and they were tracking 3 categories of how long the fever lasted, how long they stayed in the hospital, and how many died as a result of infection. So there were certainly trackable metrics from the 90s that then they went back and compared to these control groups.
Yeah.
So that means that it changed. So like, let's just say you had a piece of paper before you started the experiment, and then you went and looked up that same information, then that information changed. So like Karen was 50% less time in the hospital after she got better from the sepsis. So the pre-experiment paper said she was in there for 4 days. The post-experiment paper said she was only in there for 2 days. Do you see what I'm saying?
Perhaps.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
But I don't think it was that way. I don't think so
either.
So that's where the quantum entanglement happens, is because all of those potentials are occurring simultaneously. So it's almost like it's written forward or front to back and back to front. So what happened in the 90s was coinciding with what was happening on the timeline in the 2000s. So the original recording of the results was that randomized group had those results. They were the same results in the 90s as were witnessed being affected by people praying in 2000s. It was almost like in the 90s, the future prayer was already accounted for. So those timelines were like existing in parallel, even though from our linear mindset, they were happening 30 years apart or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, because I didn't see it as being something that was changed, Joe, like a mandala effect, because that's definitely a whole nother enchilada right there. But how Ashley described it, it was just that the simultaneous, that this group with all the randomness that they set all these people out for the prayer for intent showed, because the doctor, the gentleman that was running the experiment couldn't have known what the outcome was, right? Because if he would have known the outcome, then it would have had to been a blind study for him too, where they're just randomly passing out names. Now let's do the prayer and then look at the results. And the people praying didn't know that it was from patients from the 1990s. They were just praying, just got names, and that they had sepsis. That's it. It's mind-boggling.
That's what tripped me up also. So I'm sorry, one last part I want to get. The doctor didn't look at who got better or anything. He just randomly gave a group of names, a list of names to one group, and a list of other names to another group, and another group had another list. And then he went back and looked at the records. Is that what happened?
There were two. There was those who were prayed for and those who were not. So
Okay.
whatever the list of people, there was a group that had prayer and another prayer that didn't. And then they had the three, what they were looking for, what Ashley was talking about, the length of stay in the hospital,
Oh yeah,
the
3 things.
deaths, things that they could mark on there. So it would have had to have been kept blind from him as well, or else he would have
Okay.
known.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's just, we're going to pray for people and we're not going to pray for people. Go do your prayer, and then let's go back and take a look at all the statistics of what happened. So obviously he knew, and he wanted to prove the quantum side of it without it being something that he manipulated the results himself, because he already knew the outcome.
Okay, I got it.
So again, it's wrapping our mind around that things are happening simultaneously.
Okay.
And I think that's the hardest thing that we are challenged with, because of our linear thinking and how we have the perception of time in this matrix. I know
And
that's
And
I
if we
trip
can,
up on that.
yeah, and if we can imagine ourselves as toddlers in the universe, and all just the idea of simultaneous realities happening all at once, that's too much. It just like trips the brain. And then at least my brain, and then I start to realize, like, if I'm creator, like, I'm gonna have to put a little couple like restraints on you guys while you learn, because like putting you in a linear timeline, because you're not ready for this yet. And so I'm going to put you in a 3D dimension where you have a conscious feedback loop of physical reality, so you can learn these little mind-boggling things, and I'm not going to short fuse your soul or your personality. And it's where I kind of feel like that's like, I'm so grateful for the third
For
dimension.
governors.
Yes, I need to be limited. Don't
We
give
have
me everything,
governors.
please. Yeah.
You can take that several different ways. We have governors, macro and micro, as within, as without, until we learn the responsibility as being a creator. It's like, this is one gigantic sandbox, and we get to, it's controlled, so that our chaos in our lack of maturity doesn't go outward anyplace else, until we accept the responsibility of being a creator, so we can create responsibly and not be craving the power. Immature sovereigns crave power. They crave the ability to subjugate people. I'm going to rule, right? All you have to do is watch the Game of Thrones, and you can see how well that worked out.
Wouldn't it be something if some of those scriptures that I haven't delved into in the, the Hebrew or the Aramaic, but, when it says like to pray for all men and to pray without ceasing. I mean, I don't mean that you're on your knees saying words all day, but just that the spirit of that, the essence of that we could be even affecting everything that's happened. I mean, if I had that kind of faith, you know what I mean? That we could be affecting the past, that we could, be having that same effect when we remember the entanglement, that remember we've always been all one, even though we didn't see it in our life.
Exactly. And that is why, if this is my thought on this, you guys, I think that is why it is so important for us to live from the space of the heart instead of from the place of the mind. Because this doesn't see timelines. It doesn't see narratives. It doesn't see labels. It doesn't see anything on the external. It just feels and knows from here. So when we have that moment where we've connected to nature and we've connected to one another in this oneness unity, where when you experience it, you're never the same again. If we can stay in that place, we are affecting all of us because we are transmuting everything into love. That's the frequency that we're broadcasting. And so it technically is affecting the past, our present, and the future, because we're choosing to live from here instead of up here. Quantumly, we're putting that energy out into the field. So therefore, that which is projection is not separation, but is unification. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yes, Lemoyne. You can just speak up.
Okay.
You're
So
free. You're free. Just speak up. There's so few
now
of
I
us in
am.
here. So you got
Thank you
6
so
here.
much. This book has, I just getting ready to start page 39. But so far, does anybody else see where this book has been active in your life, in your past? Can you see, as he explains how things happen, I'm seeing my life. I'm seeing the sudden shifts from level to level, place to place, state to state, spirituality to quantum. And it's just amazing. And I was talking to Nine Bill around the other day. We talk every once in a while. And I told him, so as the quantum, it's a subatomic quantum atom is 0.00001 particle. So me being 180 pounds of flesh, that's how much energy am I? And this
Right.
guy, he's a pretty good mathematician. He says, you would be, let me see. He says, you would be 7.3 megajoules. You would be 5 quadrillion foot pounds. I said, I don't know. He says, well, you understand foot pounds? Yeah. He says, okay, you would be at 180 pounds, your spirituality, you would be 5 billion foot pounds of torque. That's power.
Oh my God.
Or he said in kilowatt hours in energy, you would be 2 trillion kilowatt hours of energy.
Right now.
Right now, as there I am. And because that I seek full potential, the full potential I think is like non-ending, but I'm the fullness of what I am and what I seek and we've got a lot of power and authority that my fleshly mind is not wrapping around.
Right. Because the fleshly mind is the governor.
In the quantum realm, I can understand the quantum realm. I had an experience one time quite a few years ago, praising Yahweh outside 103, and I saw there was a veil, and I saw, while I was standing there, it's 9:30 in the morning, and I'm wide awake. I saw me step out of myself, walk over to the veil, open it up, and when it did, everything was brighter and clear. I looked back at myself, I waved at myself waved at myself, I'm walking to myself, stepped in through this veil. I met myself in the quantum.
That's so
and
cool.
went through this brighter, clearer spot, fully awake. No dream, no night, standing with my dog, kicking his ball, and it's like, this is so awesome. It's so awesome.
Cool.
And,
I
and
love
lots
that.
of little things like that. So this book explains that stuff. I mean, I could see the reality of it all. So in the last 3 days, I've been changing, praying quantum and changing stuff. And now it's only taken like 5-10 minutes.
That's
or
so
a couple
wonderful.
hours. And it's like, I love you. And I love your teachings and the way it's time. This stuff comes together. All right, carry on. I'm good.
Lemoyne, I love you. Thank you for what you're sharing. Ashley, did you have something you wanted to share as well?
Oh, I just wanted to echo what Lemoyne was saying. He hit it on the head as far as once you're tuned in and turned on to this book. I mean, I've been used to synchronicities now for a few years, and certainly more than I had in my life leading up to that. But absolutely, since we started this study, it's just wild how many other facets of life are tying directly into this,
I
and
agree.
more than I had experienced with, some of the other concepts that, when you start looking for it, you see it. But this is just kind of light years ahead of all of that. It's for getting 20 pages into a book, how much it comes up in conversation, in other materials that I'm seeing, in other, broadcasts that I'm listening to. It's wild.
All right. So synchronicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can chime in with Lemoyne there, the amount of power that we hold. So about when people come to me and try to, when they're distressed, I try to make them feel better about the third dimensional paradigm of this, what we've created. That I always tell is like, this is our responsibility because we've created this, and let's just play in that third dimensional paradigm for a second. And like, we're talking about governors and all the power they have, right? And all this other stuff. And right now we're in a very like intense experience of using all their power. I'm going to say they, just for the sense of this story, this parable. But they've accumulated so much power and money in trying to control us, which means we are the greatest power, that we're trying to be corralled, and that's how much power we have. So we created this, I'm going to loop around here. We've created this experience to teach ourselves how powerful we really are, and we need to be responsible. So what do you do with it? You create a tyrannical or dystopian world where you're like, this is what abuse of power looks like, but you are the true source of power. And so, but this is the way we learn when we're immature, is experiencing this. So when we take responsibility, maybe we can send thank you cards to like Joe Biden and say, thanks a lot, brother, for serving me this way, because now I realize, whoa.
Yep. Actually, I love that, Joe, because I love that point of view, because like for my personal journey, I have actually sent gratitude out to my abusers because of things that I learned in that. And even looking at like karmic stuff coming back out around so that I could neutralize it into unconditional love. All of that experience that I got from it, because it was telling me something that I needed to learn. And once I learned those lessons, I didn't have to go around the mountain again. That kind of frequency, that energy didn't come back into my field, because the resolve came and I neutralized it. And I was actually I was grateful. I am grateful for those moments. And I can say Todah Rabbah to those moments and those people because of that role they played, holding on to that negative pole and the positive pole so it could be neutralized and not having those triggers come up again. So yeah, send a thank you card to our politicians and to our government, because they've given us the ability to see what we don't want, what we've already created irresponsibly because of the lack of trust, and what we need to do to change it within us so that we can be responsible, so that doesn't have to repeat itself.
And then go back to like the lump of clay idea, is that if we're sitting in our potter's wheel, or we're sitting there with a lump of clay in our sculptor, and the guy next to us just starts taking a machete and just starts hacking away at his lump of clay, we're like, what are you doing, man? Like, I don't know. And they're like, all right, well, I'm not going to do that. That looks like, that's not what I want. And then the next guy's like, well, maybe if you just get a little water and smoothly caress it and stuff like that. Oh, that's nicer. Thanks.
Exactly. Seeing from different perspectives how our artwork pieces come out by that which we mold by our hands. So you get what you make.
I kind of feel that with that we are people that operate in the unconditional love will always have more energy and more power and authority than people that have a financial agenda.
Oh, agreed.
And just in that unconditional love spot. It's amazing. That rubbed off on my son, who's been with me now for about a year. that him and his mom, we used to call it the incubator, but him and his mom, you know, they've this, but they're all hunky dory and everything. Like just the other day, I mean, it's all they're buds now, for no, you know, no real other reason than just being close to this atmosphere. Because I learned a long time ago how to change atmospheres, habitats, and environments.
Yeah.
And it's just showing. It's just wonderful.
It is beautiful.
It's wonderful.
You know, whatever you have created on the inside of you is the mirror that you're going to see reflecting back at you. So when we get to that place of unconditional love within us, that is what we see coming back to us, to show us the condition of the inward man in the heart. And so the more work we do, the more we're going to see it in the people that are around us, in the relationships, and how that trickles out. And it truly is a beautiful thing, because then it makes you excited to do more of that changing because of the ripple. Go ahead, Lemoyne.
No, that. Okay, I like to listen. I seldom talk much, but
I know. I like hearing from you, though. So, you know, I want to make space for all of us to be able to share. I know that my friend Regina is being quiet right now, and that's okay. I'm just glad she's here.
I'll fill the spot. So this morning in Revelation, so I had I've realized that I have been in multiple dimensions. I realize that I've been in fourth dimension. I realize that I've been in fifth dimensions. And I realized that I've been at the height of fifth dimensions only because of what we're studying. And what pops up on Facebook, on YouTube, was reading about the dimensions, third, fourth, and fifth. And as I read that, wow, I have been at the top of the fifth dimension. Now, the point is, I want to get there some more, and I want to stay there. But the other thing is, I've had several major supernatural experiences from outside coming inside that I shut down the height of these dimensions because of fear of entering something wrong because of the pulpit.
I know.
And now I'm like, okay, I've been there. I got there. I can get there. I'm not afraid of the pulpit anymore. I'm good. You know, and we got this thing going on. So now it's like, man, and now we're starting to connect. Now things are starting to really, yes, ma'am. Yeah, connect. Let me just say, and I love the pulpit. I love the people that go there. I love the book. I don't have any problems with Jesus or big. I don't have no problems with nobody. But when we get out of fear, when we just start loving, we don't shut these things down. That we're afraid that we're doing wrong, and we stop the greatest experiences of a fleshly lifetime. And I'm like, woohoo.
Go ahead, Ashley. You wanted to comment?
Oh no, I was just hollering out an amen. I've lived that. I've experienced it. Not much to add other than yep, been there, done that, and glad to be in a place where the fear isn't paralyzing, and like Lemoyne said so well, that you're able to experience things that otherwise were withheld because you were limited by your own fear.
Exactly. And you know that the beautiful part is that we have the ability to extend grace, mercy, and forgiveness to those things in the past to release us from that bondage of it, right? Because
yes,
I know that, like, in this journey, so we're getting into this quantum realm. We're getting to understand that we are creators, and that taking responsibility for creation, which means we have to do internal work, because we're manifesting the junk that's inside of us. Now, when I say junk, I don't mean to shame and guilt that, because that's what I'm dealing with. I'm just saying the stuff that we've stuffed in there, that we've chosen to bury to make ourselves loftier, because we don't want to look at it, but that's exactly what's manifesting on the outside. So you're going to have to look at it anyway. So that's your reality on the outside. You don't have a choice. It's going to show itself, and you can go around and around the mountain. But as we experience that, and we can say, yeah, I came from a religious background. I came from something that was very binding. That's like when Joe was saying that we can send a thank you note to Biden, right? So we can send a thank you note to, and that's through the heart space. We don't have to do a literal, but send a thank you to our religious backgrounds. Say a thank you to that, and send much love and much gratitude, Todah Rabbah, because all of that got us to where we are today. And it is existing. So my Christian ego self back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, is still here with me. Right here. Oh, that's making me well up. And so in that place of not knowing, in that ignorance, in that moment, it's right here with me. And I can look at that. Oh, Joe, like you're saying, the higher self is coming in where we are right now. My space in my now can embrace where I was 10 years ago, where I had so much fear and there was so much dogma because I was within the Hebrew roots movement and I was holding tight to the law and the polarities, and I was afraid that I wasn't keeping the calendar right, and I was afraid that when it came to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, I was going to find yeast in my house. And I had so much fear in that moment, but right now, I'm embracing me in that moment, going, you know what, girl, you had to go through that, and it's okay. I know, I wish I could tell you it sucks, but you're finding it out that it sucks, but I love you anyway. I'm not going to shame you for being there. I'm not going to shame you for having fear, because you needed experience, because now you can see the opposite. You can see unconditional love and how that covers a multitude of missing the mark of oneness. I'm not going to say sin, because that's that which separates us, that we wrestle with, that keeps us from oneness. I'm not shaming that I was there. I'm embracing it because it was an experience, and I can love and nurture myself right now in that place when I had so much fear, so much control, and go, it's okay. I love you. I mean, I feel that because that was a dark space for me.
And welcome her home. You know, she's home.
Come this way.
Yeah.
The water's much better right here.
Let's merge these souls, fractals of our souls, and just merge and welcome home.
Exactly, because home is where the heart is. It's not a physical location. It's right here. It's a spiritual location with source, with Abba, with the energies, with the currency out there that is of the spiritual energy that we use to create. It's beautiful. Boy, I've been full of a lot of tears this last week, and they just still keep coming. I do want to share something with you guys. I pulled up a video and I want to play it, because I'm not going to keep us really long today, because we've had really good conversations, but I don't want it to go too long. I appreciate everything that you guys have shared. This has been a really fantastic meeting today. Thank you. I want to share a video that I had posted a long time ago, and it has nothing to do with me. Christopher McDonald, you guys would know him on the YouTube channel as Red Ready. And he had an experience with his dog, and I'm sure, Joe, maybe you remember it, but he had an experience with his dog that was so profound that when he shared it with me, when he first found the channel and we connected, I asked him if I could make a video of it, because it is exactly about the subject matter that we're talking about today, about creating a reality. And this was something that was innate within him. So he brought it in with him to manifest in this life. And he began to really completely understand the power of being a creator. And I just want to share it because there's new viewers on our channel. There's new people that have come in from an influx from an interview we did with Global Witness. And if they're watching about Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, because some of this stuff in the Christian church would be considered woo-woo, and they might consider it witchcraft, because you have to jump over the hurdle to realize that you're also a creator, you know? And so I know the hurdle that you have to cross over to be able to embrace this, but I want to share his video here because it's very touching, but this is what we can do to manifest in our life, and what it created for him in an experience with his best friend, his dog. So if you would let me share that, I would really like to take a few minutes. It's not long, but I think it really does hit home with what we're sharing here today. So I am going to go ahead and share this, and hopefully internet will allow us to. I created Rudy in everything about our journey. I created his death, and then I wanted him to die in my arms. I created it all. I only wanted a male red tan. What's the odds? I wanted a place that allowed a pet. I got the owner to hold Rudy for an extra month with both his parents until Grandpa's funeral was over in 2009 and I moved into a new place. I wanted it, and it happened just like that. I wanted a house with a big backyard and a dog door. When I transferred to Calgary for school, that's exactly what I rented. A whole place by ourselves for the entire time with a huge backyard. After school, I wanted a job that allowed Rudy's presence. It was my dream job to drive around supervising the road jobs with Rudy for 5 years solid. When we were working during those years, I thought about having a retirement home for Rudy and getting off the road jobs, hotel life, and settling in with a home office job so I didn't have to leave Rudy to actually go to a real office job. We did this from December 2018 to September 2020. During that time when Rudy's health was declining, I saved him a few times from passing on several separate occasions. I always wanted him to die at home, but he never did in Calgary. We kept going until the 28th of September, where I made the decision to pull the plug in Calgary, based on many reasons, and go to Dad's. Rudy kept trucking along and was getting really tired. The constant yelling from my dad at the dogs or me was awful. I stuck it through for 10 weeks until December 23rd, when I pulled the plug and came to Mom's. Rudy was slowing down, and from December 23rd at Mom's, it's been like hospice. The energy and love that surrounded my boy was sweet and gentle in his last days here. He was so perfect. He was so happy and proud, acting like a puppy, finding the energy where he could. I told my mom every day exactly where Rudy was at, and I told her he was going to die naturally with no help. I talked to Rudy multiple times, telling him he did such a great job, and I'm so proud of him, and I loved him so much, that he would be okay and could go gently, and that I would be okay, as I knew that he would be coming right back as Spirit did not leave me. Rudy couldn't take his eyes off me. I know Rudy is with me still. I created everything about his life, from beginning to end. In the end, I held him in my arms as he took his last breath, and his soul left his body. I carried him to the truck for his last truck ride, as he was going to be privately cremated and placed in a birch basket here at home. I didn't realize that when I said home, that my mom's was home. Calgary was never home. It was never the plan to stay there. And I don't feel like he's gone. I just don't have him physically. I created Rudy. I am Rudy. Rudy is me. So why do I sign love, a light, red Rudy? In 2020, I learned how to use gematria and Strong's Concordance for Hebrew. Using my full name, Christopher, 158, Ahav, love, Christopher Scott. 216, or, a light, Christopher Scott MacDonald. 132, Admonai, red, ruddy. The significance of red ruddy is, at 12:34, January 5th, 2021, I had my 11-year-old red tan Doberman Pinscher die naturally in my arms of old age. His name was Rudy. I literally saw his spirit leave through the last gasp of air he took in my arms. We pretty much spent every day together of his life. I manifested everything about his life. And we were never separate for more than 2 to 3 weeks, his entire life. He was my best friend, and I made damn sure that I did what I could to give him the most incredible life. All we did was work and journey together for 11 years. Such a beautiful life I've been so grateful for. I am love. I am a light. I am Red Rudy. Thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to leave something else here, because as we are learning about our creator gifts and being able to create life the way it was created through Rudy, the number 11 is a master number of spiritual awakening, and it occurs during the transition of leadership and spiritual inheritance. And it is the 11th number of the Hebrew alphabet, Kaf, filling your cup with the language of revelation that will help us transition into something new and overdue. It is also a number associated with drinking the rain from heaven when crossing over into a new promised land as Joseph. As of the 11th son of Jacob, he has added power to himself through the divine sacred wedding as a mouth that speaks forth revelation from the language of light and love, revealing the greater purpose of I am. So, in the testimony of Rudy and Christopher, I say, job well done, a beautiful life spent together, with many more new adventures ahead, knowing and experiencing love in its fullness. Shalom, shalom, and namaste. Hopefully you guys heard that.
Yes. Carrie,
Yeah.
I had shared with you a little bit before that I thought it was like 12 years, but I was figuring out it had been about 15 years since I was able to cry. And I love animals, and I had 4 animals, and they all passed away this year. And my little dog just died on the 14th last week in my arms. And all my dogs, all my animals have, passed. And when my cat died 3 weeks ago, I was able to cry, not a sobbing cry, but, some tears coming down my face. And it was so novel, and then when my little dog cried and my husband got on the ground and, put his face and nestled his face into the dog's neck and cried, I noticed, oh my gosh, my face is wet. And I had done that. I was a chaplain. I'd seen, that breath, when that last breath goes, that's it, and I told the little guy, it's okay to go. I told him to go and find the others and run with them and play with the angels. But I'm telling you how much I appreciate you and your ministry, because how in the world can this happen? Only with God and people like you who are so open to the spirit. And I'm not praising you, I'm sincerely grateful, and for everything that everybody shares on here, because I just feel connected, that I would have just held on to this all in myself. And I'm just grateful. That's all I want to share. Thank you.
Kathleen, thank you. I understand. And I don't want to make everybody cry. I mean, that's very touching, and I cried with it too. What this was an experience that Christopher had, that he created a life of that which he intended and what he wanted, and it fully manifested exactly the way he wanted to. And so Christopher understood about the power of creation because he saw it fully manifested. And at that end of the video about the number 11 and the fact that Rudy lived for 11 years and what that was representing in the totality of Christopher's experience, how so deeply profound. And, you know, that's a video that's been buried. That happened a long time ago. And so I really wanted to share that and honor that life in that creation because of what we are sharing. I have one more testimony I want to share with you, and then we'll probably just close for the day, and I'll let you guys finish up with any other comments that you have to say. But this was sent to me, and this one, again, I appreciate the kind words that are directed towards Ken and I. It really touches my heart, but it's really about all of us. I mean, if you see something in us, that's because it's you. You're seeing a reflection of you, and so for all the compliments that come this way, I bring them right back to you because you're seeing a measure of yourself in a reflection of a mirror, or else you wouldn't see that. So please know that is you as well, because we are one. So if you see it, that is also your light. And that's why I like to say namaste, because I had somebody ask me about that the other day, because it's a Sanskrit word, right? And they're like, well, how is that connected to Hebrew and Aramaic? Well, first of all, it's another vibrational language that affects matter, Semitics, but it also is about us honoring the light within another person, because it's the same light that's within us. So when you say things like that, Kathleen, I see it as honoring the light that is in each one of us.
Thank you.
So thank you for your light that you bring while you are here.
Thank you.
You are welcome, Bevakasha. So here's another testimony, and because I think it's very fitting to go in this too, and we'll end up with this and have some additional comments. This is from somebody, I'll just read it to you. I'm not going to share her name or her avatar, although I'll share her avatar because she does have a YouTube channel, and you might want to check out information that she has there. But I hadn't heard from her in a couple months. She said, Shalom, Carrie. I was on your YouTube channel a few months back and we spoke via comments. My username is The Place to Be, and it's the place with a number 2 and the letter B. I'd only just found you when I got sick, and you sent me well wishes and prayers for healing. That was back earlier this year. I was the one who shared if you refined gold past 24 carats, it turns crystal clear. I'm sure you have so many people commenting and sharing with you that you probably can't remember them all, including me, so no worries about that. Well, I will just let you know, I very much have remembered this person, and I remember comments and usernames and the avatars that you choose, because all of you touch my heart. Anyway, with that being said, I just wanted to share what happened. I was a gallstone that got blocked in my colon, and I blew a hole in it, not nice, which caused me to die for a short time and have a near-death experience. All I can say is, wow, I'm still struggling to even explain it to anyone. Maybe when I'm fully recovered, I can translate it into words I will share. Throughout this time, I was away from the internet mostly, and only on the last few weeks have I been catching up with all the mail, etc., messages, on top of selling my home, and then remembering that I must write and thank you for all your prayers. Having my near-death experience confirmed all that you are sharing, along with what Dr. Joe Dispenza and many others are sharing. I want to say thank you for the prayers and to let you know I'm back, but I've got so many of your videos to catch up with now that I thought I would start at your first video, work my through all of them, as I know truly understanding with what you are sharing is so important for everyone right now. I don't know if I shared my YouTube channel. Well, it's more like a library of teachers, of which most have studied the Aramaic and Hebrew languages, like Neville Goddard being one of them. He studied both languages for 7 years with an Ethiopian black mystic called Abdullah. Not that Neville teaches the languages themselves, but he just shares what he discovered from the learning from them, and he wrote many books on the subject. What Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches is the same thing, but he doesn't share anything about languages or any religion teachings or talks, for he is sharing the science that proves what you and Ken are sharing. Neville Goddard and all the others that came before were teaching. I used the Dr. Joe method to heal my body, and all I can say is that it works. My doctor said that
She's gonna close it off in a few minutes. What is the chance that?
Are you guys still there? You guys still hearing me? Okay, I was hearing Kathleen there.
Lamone is, I can hear you.
Okay, so she finishes up saying that my doctor said that I should be dead, but I'm not, thanks to all of you that are sharing these truths. And so anyway, that's all I want to share with that one. But I thought it was wonderful that, again, it doesn't matter that she mentioned, you know, what Ken and I are sharing. What I thought was so beautiful is that she was connecting Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, the fact that she healed herself, and then people like Neville Goddard that had studied the Hebrew and Aramaic languages and how they're all connecting together. They're saying the exact same thing. So when we see science and spirituality that can come together as one and be able to see that we can create an environment like creating Rudy and creating healing for us and manifesting it when the sacred languages are saying the same thing, and then seeing it work through quantum physics, how incredible. I am just so grateful for the experience to be part of that and know that we can be responsible creators and we can create a thing of beauty, of harmony, of unity, instead of separation and division. That doesn't have to be in a system of duality with good and evil, but it can be into a place where there is nothing but love and light, and move forward for a better future in our now, right here, that it ripples out this way and collapses it all into our now moment. I'm speechless in a lot of ways. Imagine that. But when I sit with it, I truly am.
Carrie, I just gotta say, this gets back to what Lemoyne was sharing earlier about seeing this everywhere. And it's wild that you would share this story, because the whole last 2 weeks I have just been on a Neville Goddard kick, and it has been so exactly in line with everything that we're doing. So I'm surprised, but not surprised that that would come up today, because it's been absolutely resonating and been a focus. Apart from your teachings, I've been side by siding it with a ton of Neville Goddard. So too funny.
Wow, that's amazing. I had listened to some Neville Goddard stuff on Reality Revolution with Brian Scott. And I didn't listen to a ton of them. The only reason why I started listening to them is I like to listen to a lot of the quote channeling. So as soon as there's a quote channeling on there, I'm like on it. And because anyway, that's just my own personal preference. But I had multiple people come and say to Ken and I that have gone through Neville Goddard stuff that said, man, the stuff that you are sharing is much like what Neville shares. And I didn't know until I received this email that he had studied the Hebrew and the Aramaic with a mystic for 7 years. And I went, oh, okay, that makes sense now. It was a little dot connect that happened for me.
I actually just learned that last night, the whole thing about the mystic thing, like literally within the last 24 hours, even though I've been listening to him for 2 weeks.
There we go. I had somebody change it, and they said instead of synchronicities, that we need to look at it as divine convergences.
I like that.
I know. I thought that was better. I'm like, divine convergences. So that's what we're even having right here in this moment by just bringing it all together for those who are joining in. So I don't know how many are on YouTube, but I thank you guys for being here. And I don't really have anything else to share for now, because that's enough. I brought some emotional stuff in. I think we're good. Unless you guys have any other points that you want to share. The bulk of what I wanted to do was talk about that experiment and how the past, present, and future collapsing into our moment quantumly. That's really what I wanted to talk about today. So if you guys want to finish it up with anything that you want to share. And Regina, I know you've been quiet, but if you want something to share too, my friend, please pipe in. I'd love to hear your beautiful voice. But you don't have to.
This has been really, really, really a good group. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. I'm watching somebody, and it would have been too loud in the background, and I just have kind of just listened, and it's really been, I don't know. I can relate to everything everyone said, so it was really a good session. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. I miss you, my friend. I love you.
I love you too.
Anybody else want to have any comments as we close out today?
Just grateful for everybody and the camaraderie. It's an awesome thing to be a part of.
I agree, my friend. I really do. I love you as well. I was very happy to see you join today. I miss some of our familiar faces, but there was really good, amazing energy today with all of us here, and I felt the love. So I thank you guys for what you're bringing. Joe, did you want to say anything?
No, I think I'm just in that quiet, reflecting space, and love you guys. This is great. This is really fun. Feel good.
I love you too. Well, thank you guys so much for being here today. Todah Rabbah. I'm very grateful for what you have brought to the table and your sharing, being here, having this moment as we're connecting as responsible creators, and how we're going to be able to walk this out together collectively in the time of the gathering before truly the time of the revealing is fully upon us. So, Todah Rabbah, Shalom, Shalom, and Namaste. Bye, everyone.